Good evening, everyone. This is a meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the Town of Eastham. Today is October 2nd, and this is a partially remote participation meeting. The members of the board are gathered here in the Earl Mountain Room at Town Hall. Applicants and the public may participate in person here or online through the Zoom app or by phoning in. This meeting will be live broadcast on Local Access Channel 8 and streaming on the town website. Under the executive order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law signed by former Governor Charlie Baker in March of 2020 and extended by our current Governor Maura Healey in March 2025 until June 20th, 2027, all members in any meeting of the public body may be participating remotely. I'm Joanne Berlinden, Chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and with the help of my colleagues, I will be leading the meeting tonight. Have all of you in the audience signed our sign-up sheet? Okay. All set? Okay, thank you. We have one case tonight. Case number Zoning Board of Appeals 2025-4, 420 Meeting House Road, map 9, parcel 140. Velma Decker and Linda Potash are the applicants. They seek an appeal pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 8, and Section 10 of the Eastham zoning bylaw of the decision of the Eastham Planning Board in case number PB 2025-6, granting site plan approval, residential. The vote may be taken. If you would like to talk to us.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the board. My name is Christopher Senni. I'm an attorney in Brewster, and I represent Val Decker, who's here at the table with me, and her mother, Lydia Potash, who's here in the back of the room. They own 625 Schoolhouse Road, which abuts the property that received site plan approval, which we have appealed. There has been a history here and a difficult time, and it's been hard for my clients. I have sat with them for quite some time and talked to them about the purpose of this appeal and what we might expect to accomplish. We're trying to focus in a very targeted way on two possible additional conditions to be added to the granted site plan application. With those two conditions, if the board were to affirm what the board did, but modify it in just these two respects, my clients would be satisfied with the site plan that was approved. The two conditions are simply that the existing walls that are on the site, which are in a way terraced, there's a ground and then a wall and then more ground and another wall, and there's a series of walls there. We believe those were not constructed according to good engineering practices or good designs that would ensure that the earth that my clients say at times does come from their land and goes down to the applicant's land will not do that. That these walls are capable of preventing such erosion. Our condition number one is simply that prior to construction, the applicant will provide the building commissioner with a certificate from a qualified structural engineer that the walls that are planned and the walls that are going to stay meet sufficient standards and will protect the uphill property from being eroded. That doesn't seem to be terribly onerous. It's not something that needs to go back to the planning board. It's simply a condition in the special permit that would say, let's make sure before we build a new structure here that the retaining walls that exist really on three sides of this property in the location where the new structure will be built are sound. The second is simply to revise the site plan to show the 6-foot natural buffer to locate all retaining walls on the site plan because some are missing, and to provide existing grade on the southern half of the property, which are not complete on the site plan. So our ask is very simple. We're not looking to revisit old history or get into the things that quite honestly can create a lot of emotion when one property owner feels that things have been done without proper approvals, it can generate an awful lot of strong feelings. We're not interested in that tonight. We're interested to see if this board will use the power that it has to modify a site plan that becomes appealed from the decision of the planning board to you to simply add 2 conditions. There are already a number of conditions in the site plan approval. Again, one is just a certificate from a qualified structural engineer that the existing and planned retaining walls are sound, and the other is to just complete the site plan with those features. Show the 6-foot required natural buffer on the plan, which isn't there. Show all retaining walls, and the topographical lines do not seem to be complete in this part of the site plan. We would like to see the elevations existing and proposed. That's the entirety of our ask this evening. My client is here, Val is here, and might wish to make some comments, but I had hoped to have a chance to review these proposed conditions with Attorney Zender, who I know very well. I have copies of a very short document that has the 2 conditions we're proposing. I would be happy to pass this out to board members and to give a copy to Attorney Zender. But that is the entirety of the legal ask that we're making tonight.
But that asking for another certified engineering plan, and you're wanting assurances that either these walls come down or get replaced. Am I understanding that right?
No,
Not
we,
come- not
no,
come-
we don't want any walls to come down or be replaced. They may need to be rebuilt if a qualified structural engineer says this wall is bowing and it's moving, it's shifting, it's not holding the earth well enough, and here's what one would need to do to make this a safe wall, then that should be provided to the building commissioner before construction starts.
All right, so you're not wanting the neighbor to take down those walls?
No.
Just another certified engineering study?
Yes.
Maybe we should take a look at this.
Yes, yes, yes.
Sure.
We would like to take a look at the handout that you had,
Yes.
if you don't mind, and a copy for Mr. Zender, please. Thank you. Mr. Zender, do you have thoughts about this number 1 here?
I do. First of all, the second condition is fine. You know, I think providing an additional site plan showing the required 6-foot natural buffer in the location of all retaining walls and existing grade and elevations is fine. We're happy to do that as an additional consideration by the board. The first one gives me pause, because what the applicant is asking you to do is to order they go out and get a certified stamped engineer to certify that the existing walls on the property, we're not talking about proposed construction, existing walls on the property are going to meet certain engineering standards for retention. I have no idea what those standards are. So this has nothing to do with the proposal to install a garage. This has to do with concerns that the applicant has about existing walls on the property that are already there. And in looking at the, the site plan review provisions, there's nothing in your site plan review, I'm sorry, the planning board site plan review that involves review of existing construction or building code techniques or construction. So the applicant certainly has a cause of action. If in fact, in the future, some event happens on my client's property that causes damage to her property, there would be an action for nuisance. If, for example, an excavation that he made or some improvement that he made, caused her landform to change in some way or to erode, there's certainly a private right in that. But to hold this permitting process for construction of a new building, meeting building code, hostage to some certification by an engineer of existing walls on the property, I don't think is appropriate. Thank you.
One follow-up question. Ben, with the location of the new garage going in place, will those existing retaining walls be modified in any way? Because it looks like the new garage is going to be cutting off a portion of those walls.
They will. They will be reshaped to come in. And I think the board has looked at the plan where those retaining walls come into the east side of the garage. And I don't know if you're aware of the modifications that were presented to the planning board that actually, change those retaining walls to remove any doors and windows on the east side. But yes, though there's going to have to be some site work to bring the existing retaining walls and grade into the new garage. And that, of course, is going to have to meet building code and structural codes.
So as you're modifying those retaining walls and you're saying they're going to have to hold up to structural code,
Yeah.
what's the methodology you're going to use to prove that that's actually happening?
I have no idea. I'm not an engineer and I don't delve into building code very often. I'm assuming that there are state structural codes that have to do with how you construct the garage and also, at grades of various heights, how they're retained, whether you have to have dead men in there, whether you have to
Oh, absolutely.
have poured walls. I think those are all the subject of state codes. And so I think that for Mr. Doolittle to get his certificate of occupancy, there are going to have to be periodic inspections of that construction work. But how that relates, for example, to a retaining wall that's further to the north, I
was just focusing on the part that.
No, I think anywhere that this is going to be altered or constructed, I think there's going to have to be code. I can't answer the member's question as to what those codes are. I just don't know. It's a black box for me, so.
Yeah, I think actually, you can continue.
Be recognized.
Any other questions?
Paul? Got anything to say?
Maybe just on,
Justin?
maybe just related to that specific topic we were just talking about, if we're making adjustments to an existing retaining wall, or if you're building a new retaining wall, hypothetically, I don't think we're doing that here. Is confirmation in the form of a certificate from a qualified structural engineer part of that normal process? If I were just on my property building a new retaining wall, or is this something above and beyond what would normally be required of a new retaining wall?
My guess, this is nothing more than almost sheer conjecture. Tim works on this stuff all the time. My guess is that if it's over a certain height and it involves a certain amount of retainage, then I'm guessing there has to be a building inspector going to require some kind of a stamp. But if it's a 4-foot retaining wall, probably not. They're probably just looking for best methods of construction. But Tim Klink is if you don't mind, may I ask him to weigh in? He knows this.
So I'm Tim Klink with the Coastal Companies. I'm the one representing Gary in the initial site plan review. The walls that you see that are modified that curl into the foundation, those are kept under 4 feet. So a wall that's under 4 feet is considered a garden wall. Doesn't require structural engineering, doesn't require any permits. And most of the boulder walls that pre-exist on the property are under 4 feet as well. They're the same type of boulders that you would see that would form like a seawall along the shore. The big round boulders that you move with an excavator. So those walls that curve in would not require any structural purview or engineering whatsoever. And the foundation for the garage is a structural design foundation where those walls tie into it.
So Tim, while you're up there, so you made some good points about walls being under 4 feet are called landscape walls. So over 4 feet would require some sort of engineering.
Yeah, over 4 feet would require structural.
You mentioned that what you just stated that most of the other retaining walls are 4 feet or less.
I can't state the average height of all of them. I haven't measured every rock.
But they,
Most
but
of
the
the
two
rock-
walls are cascaded on each other, and I can't determine from Tim Brady's map here what the top elevation is, what the elevation at the bottom of the second wall is.
I do
I
not
mean,
know that.
on by eye, it looks to be very close to 8 feet. I mean, it feels like it's, you know, from the top of the top wall to the bottom of the bottom wall.
And sort of the combination of this plus that,
Yes.
that's how you need it, yeah.
Is that fair to say, or is that?
I can't, without looking at the map and shooting some grades there, I couldn't tell you what the overall heights would be of those
Okay.
two walls.
All right, thanks.
But even though the walls are separated, you can't combine them in height to create one 8-foot wall. That's not how structural engineering works. They're tiered terraced walls. So each wall is structurally individual to each other. And because they would be under 4 feet, they wouldn't require review.
Oh, right. I wasn't saying that,
Yeah.
I wasn't adding the 2 8s. I was,
Yeah,
I
okay,
was
yeah.
saying, what caught my attention was that you said most of the other retaining walls were 4 feet or less. So I grabbed that note real quick to say, where's there a retaining wall that's more than 4 feet?
That I would not know without.
Okay, thank you.
And through the chair, I took photographs of the property that we put up on the screen that might give the board a better understanding of the existing walls. I think I have them in photographic representation. I don't know, Jackie, if you can pull it up. And these photographs were taken a couple days ago. I just went out to the site. So that's a front view of the house. You can see that the house is already a little bit below the grade of the street. And then the next photograph, that's a view down into the area where the garage will be in the back. And you can begin to see some of those retaining walls on the left-hand side of the property. And I believe that's the property that's the side that's abutting the applicant. So now you're getting your first look at these walls. This is looking back towards the street, towards the home. Your back would be to the proposed construction of the garage. And you can see, I don't know if it's possible to zoom that in back here or not, but you can see that there are retaining walls on the right-hand side of the picture, right there. And it looks to me like those are 2 walls. Gary can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's 2 walls. One wall goes up, then it terraces, and then it goes up to a second wall up to the top. And this shows the area where the garage will be. Again, you see a wall coming up, and then you see a terrace and a second wall, and off to the right-hand side of the photograph is where that garage is gonna be located.
And is that wall also 4 feet high?
I can't tell you, Gary. I don't know do you know how tall those walls are, Gary?
Yeah, roughly 4.
4 feet. Each of those walls is 4 feet, about 4 feet.
I see the,
And then if we keep going, you'll get a better look. Again, if you look at this closely, you'll see that it's about a 4-foot wall that comes up and then it terraces flat, goes back, and then another one going up. And then on top of that, Gary has a flat lawn area. It's a stable, flat planted lawn area. And then that goes in the very back to a long row of, I don't know if they're Lelands or arborvitae.
Leland's, yeah,
Lelands, thank you. You've been out there. So,
okay.
see, that might give you a better, I'm just really trying to answer the question of what's out there right now. So,
Well, thanks for the
Yeah.
updated pictures.
Thank you.
It's clear that to me, the walls look like the taller wall is probably just about 4 feet. I think what's deceptive here is that below the lower wall is then another slope. Now, slope's a slope, and that looks like it's another 3 feet. Because when I look at from the top of the wall down to the yard, it feels this is more than 8 feet. But that explains it probably is 10 or 11 feet from the top of the applicant's backyard to the bottom, but that slope is filling in the last 3 or 4 feet, in my view. Thank you.
Bob, questions?
I was curious about how far into the property those walls were. Are they right at the property line, or are they in 8 or 10 feet?
No, they're pretty much close to the property line, inside the plantings on the property lines, but those walls are inside those.
concerns with their property, was solely, leaching down into this property, and I was wondering how to. Yeah. I was wondering how to protect that, and if we could, whatever happens on the Doolittle property is his problem, but if it affects the neighbors, then we have a problem.
Well, if I may, I just talked to Gary, he has a line of arborvitae that are Lelands? There's a line of Leland cypress that runs along his entire property that's obviously stabilizing and screening.
Yeah,
and then-
plantings do stabilize. the
Right, I
soil.
understand, but then there's about 8 or 9 feet of flat lawn area before you get to the edge of that first wall. So that's a pretty significant amount of earth.
That's where I was going.
Yeah,
Right.
and again, I'm not an engineer, but I think it's highly unlikely that, short of an earthquake or that you're gonna see that entire lawn area and then those walls just
Right.
collapse in some way. I can't see it, but I guess it's possible.
If I may, when I look at request number 2, which has already been agreed to by,
Wait, just 1 second.
Sorry.
Yep, on
Oh,
I'm
number
sorry.
1.
Yeah, so the flat lawn area you referred to, I was out there today and actually looks like it is a little swale. So it slopes up, which I would think would offer a little more protection. I'm curious if there's been evidence of dirt going into that area, somehow getting over that swale as it erodes, as is
Down
claimed.
to the other properties on the south side.
All of it was done without any
Well,
permits.
I know. But I mean, there is evidence of erosion on the southern side, quite visible. I believe I've been able to show it to some of the applicants willing to kind of wade back there.
Okay, thank you.
No. Number 2.
missed my question now. Nope, I think I'm good.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions, comments?
I mean, I understand the delicateness here and the emotions that have gone into this over some time. I'm having a hard time trying to understand how to connect whatever has been going on, whatever erosion may or may not have taken place with how to ask for a certificate of structural soundness that isn't normally required for this construction. I'm trying to understand how do we say this case is exceptional and demands that higher bar?
If I could answer. First, my clients appreciate what Attorney Zender said about the second condition. We appreciate that. In terms of the first condition, we are in site plan review. And this board and the planning board are used to looking at plans and considering existing conditions. In fact, one of the plans that's usually required is an existing conditions plan. Just because a condition exists doesn't mean that it's off limits in a land use review of a proposed project. If there is concern that there may be something unstable, and I think my client has been able to demonstrate that it has been unstable, it is not beyond the board's jurisdiction to take a look at those existing conditions in relationship to what's being planned and to condition approval on making sure that those existing conditions are safe. To me, it doesn't matter that the building code might treat this differently from a site plan point of view, and that's where we are, given the broad discretion that both this board and the planning board have in site plan review to attach conditions that will safeguard properties and people. I don't see any reason why a condition couldn't be fashioned that we want to know. And I think Attorney Zender has basically admitted that he doesn't have an idea right now as to the soundness of both the combination of walls and slopes that actually are managing about a 12-foot drop altogether. I don't think it's beyond this board's competence or that of the planning board to want from the applicant, either as part of the public hearing process or before the building permit is issued, to confirm that we have a stable site. This is site plan and these are siting questions. So I think it is appropriate for the board to be pondering this.
Ben?
Yeah, I disagree with my brother. I think the board, and you're sitting as the planning board essentially has a limited authority. And if we look at 10.3.2 standards, it says the planning board. And in the case of site plan special permit, the zoning board of appeals shall approve a site plan in the form submitted or with such reasonable conditions relating to the standards and criteria delineated in the section. And so first of all, I would submit that, when you read the staff report, which is very well prepared, it outlines all the conditions that were imposed by the planning board, which means that they determined that they could reasonably condition this project. But looking further into the standards and criteria in your site plan review bylaw, and what Attorney Sunny was saying was that, this board should be looking at whether the site is safe or whether there's a pre-existing condition. That's not what's set forth in the criteria. The criteria, there's a section of criteria that the board looks at. One is the prevailing character of the neighborhood. We're not talking about that. One is height and scale. We're not hearing any allegations that the height and scale are inappropriate here. One is massing, and you can see that half of the structure is set into a hill, whereas from the backside it's only about 16 feet tall. So we're not talking about massing. Setbacks shall be cited in order to maintain or enhance and create street frontage appropriate to the prevailing character of the neighborhood. We're not dealing with that. This is in the way back of the lot. Building materials. We're not looking at building materials. Lighting. We're not looking at lighting. Architectural technology. We're not looking at architectural technology. The only criteria that's in the section that applies in any way, shape, or form is a statement that says proposed building sites shall avoid impact on steep slopes, floodplains, hilltops, dunes, scenic views, and wetlands. And then it says unique physical features and sensitive habitats on the site and or the neighborhood shall be considered in context and where feasible shall be incorporated into the proposed project. And from looking at the plans on the site that what they've done is they've incorporated the rear hillside into this project, which essentially hides roughly half of this structure from the south and from the east and a little bit from the west. It's only from the north when you're actually standing in Gary's yard looking at this that you really see the full height of the structure, or if you're up at the street in which it's a number of hundreds of feet away. So the only criteria here is, did the applicant utilize the grade in such a way as to maximize the efficiency and to incorporate the hills? And they did do that. And the planning board must have found that. There's nothing in the bylaw that says that the board should be looking at whether the existing site is safe or that there's existing erosion or that some building code issue should be brought into the discussion. It's just not there. So we appreciate the concern that the neighbors have, but I don't think this is the venue for addressing that. The venue for addressing that would be either in examining whether the construction itself is appropriate, meets code by way of looking at the approvals and inspections by the building inspector, and reviewing the file at any point to see whether or not there's been some required inspection or engineer stamp that wasn't obtained, or God forbid, if there's some event in which the neighbor's land is affected in some way by either erosion or displacement or something like that, then there's a private right of remedy for nuisance. But in no way is this a planning board issue, and therefore it's not a zoning board issue.
Ben, since you brought it up, since we really haven't talked much about the structure at all, somewhere in this pile of paper, it's discussion that the upstairs might be used for an ADU or housing.
I'm not sure there is an upstairs. Is there an upstairs?
Trust construction, so there is no upstairs.
Yeah, again, Mr. O'Rourke, if you could show the plans.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you have the floor plans, and I'm not sure I have them in there, but it's really just an open span all the way up to the roof trusses.
Okay.
So, and if you look at the plans, all you see is a tiny little window at the very top where, they bring some light in the top. So there's no second floor. So I don't
Okay.
think, at least as of right now, Bob, I don't think that's an issue. So, somebody would build a
Well,
second floor.
If there was a second floor, it doesn't meet the setbacks. is my-
No, you're
my
right.
point.
It's 20 feet off the lot line. It wouldn't meet the requirement. You can actually see the roof line, and you can see those garage doors where they go up. Those garage doors are going to go up and slide back. So there really isn't sufficient. There's no sufficient headroom. There's a roof truss structure up there. I don't have a structural cross section. I'm sorry, in these plans.
Okay.
So, Mr. Doolittle, you intend to use this for boat storage or car storage or the garage?
It's just a two-car garage, put the boats in, with the lawnmower, and put my truck in. There's no operation there, there's no business there, there's no nothing. Just a simple, two-car garage.
And for the board's information, Mr. Lewis is a firefighter in the town of Wellfleet. He's not engaged in the trades, so. I don't
Thank
believe he is. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Gary.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else? Questions or comments?
Comment.
Okay.
I have a comment in that, when I first looked at the appeal and all the pictures that came along with it, it's clear that there was significant erosion at some point in the past when the site was first opened up. I spent quite a bit of time there. Earlier this week, things look stable to me at this point. I don't see any indication that anything is moving or that sand is leaching from behind these walls in any way. And I also appreciate that there's always a recourse via the civil process if damage does happen to the neighbor's lot at some point in the future. But with the lack of an alternate engineering plan to come in and say these walls are unstable, what we do have is Tim Brady's plan, even though he's not calling out the walls in particular. So at this point, I'm satisfied that I would have liked to have seen both conditions accepted by the Doolittles, but I'm satisfied that the second one would be accepted.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes.
Through you, thank you. I just want to point out what I think is a confusion on the site plan, and I think this just happened in the process of printing, I'm guessing. That in the packets printed for the case, there are very, very light lines, nearly impossible to see on what was in your packet. And I'm sorry, we're just realizing that today. Those aren't, so this is the same site plan that the planning board reviewed, but you can see from here, their plan shows retaining walls and some topography. It does not show every retaining wall.
Yes, but more
It
detail.
does have a great deal more detail, and I think just when printed, Paul says he can barely see the lines in there.
Yeah, I don't see any.
You do, I think.
I don't see any lines at all. Who's talking about up in here?
If you give me a moment, I can put it up on the screen if that's helpful, so you can see that.
Where are they?
It is.
Yeah, if you pull up, those photographs, I believe towards the end, maybe two or
You'll
three
see-
pages from the end, you'll see it. I specifically used that plan because it showed it better than the other one.
It, hold this. Just if it's gonna help the board. For information. So this, I know it's
That's it.
a lot. This is what it looked like when the planning board was making their decision, and I think just too many rounds of photocopies maybe makes it hard to see, and they are very light.
Uh-huh.
I'll zoom in.
Okay.
I will note that on here that the 6-foot line of clearing. So that sort of 6 foot in from your property line where you're not allowed to clear cut is not noted on the site plan. It's not typically noted on a site plan, but you mentioned that.
Mhm.
So
And I would add for the board,
Okay. So
what this plan is this is Eastgate Engineering's plan. But what's been added to this plan, and this was done as a revised plan to the planning board and to address some concerns. What Gary did is you can see those two retaining walls coming into the property. They added all that vegetated screening area. You can see that looked like little puffy lines on the south and on the south and then on the east. This was revised to show the area of additional vegetation and to show the new location of the walls. So those walls, you can see you're actually looking at 4 retaining walls, I believe, on that. And so the 2 top walls were the original application. And then with the subsequent application, they moved those retaining walls further to there to actually keep more of that building within the hillside and screen more of that. And then if Jackie, if you can move either up or down, you'll see that the side view go down, I think go down, keep going down, the next plan. You'll show, if you can get to the elevations right there and go to the one on, I think the lower right one. Right there, you can see the windows have been removed from the right side of this for the second iteration, which this is the one that was approved by the planning board. So those retaining wall got moved back up towards the right side of the building to screen more of the building, and then the windows on that side were removed so that there would be no effects of any operations inside on the property to the east. So.
A quick question, Tim, what you're showing there, the dark rectangle there, so is that showing us a concrete retaining wall coming in there, or is that just a?
That would be the boulder walls, but for graphic purposes, Tim Brady had drawn it.
Okay, so continue as boulders, thank you.
Okay.
When you mentioned the revegetation, behind the garage site right now is a pad with gravel that's been outlined with, timbers years ago. So
Mhm.
all of that would get revegetated?
At the top of the hill, are you vegetating the top of the hill behind the garage?
Top of the hill, that was where I stored the firewood when I cleared the lot.
Yeah.
But once the garage is in there, like it showed on the plans, that'll all be native vegetation
Okay.
behind the building. And again, to the east side, looking at the garage, the east side towards their property will be all vegetated. native.
Okay, thank you. Natives.
Mr.
Thanks.
Doolittle, would you be agreeable to providing us with a revised site plan? I'm reading number 2 from Mr. Zender's list here, showing the required 6 feet of natural buffer, the location of all retaining walls, and the existing grade and elevations for the southern half of the site. Would you be willing to provide that to us? And incur the cost if there is some?
I was curious on that. Again, I guess I'm Mr. Hypothetical tonight, but let's say that the new site plan is created and drawn and everybody looks at it, whatever that means, and can see, oh my goodness, there's a problem here. The condition is just that they create the site plan. So would they still at that point have their permit, or can creating this plan trigger some sort of, oh my goodness, there is a problem?
I don't think so, because the requirement, as I understand it, is just to create a site plan showing the existing conditions.
That
It's not,
Okay, and you know what? I'm losing that fact that it's existing conditions that we're
Yeah.
concerned about in this case, which makes more sense.
thank you.
Part of the rationale I imagine for this would be that if 15 years from now, a surveyor wants to go out and say, let me find this marker and see if it's moved 1 inch or 2 inches or 6 feet, that they can do that.
Okay.
Right now, there's no way to say whether the walls, we all think the walls look pretty stable, but if the walls are migrating slowly, unless we have them memorialized in a plan, then somebody in the future won't be able to come back and say, look, they are migrating. So
Yeah.
that's why I agree with that one.
That makes sense. And you know what? My question involved a confusion between existing site and proposed building.
And we can, am I right, Paul? We can impose that condition.
You could, but my recommendation to the board is that you make a finding that substantiates the need for that condition. And
That makes sense.
what
I think
I've
Mark
heard
just
the
talked about
board
that.
say is that they have not seen evidence at this point that there's an erosion problem, that it seems to be stabilized out there. So
Okay.
if you're, so I mean, yes, you could have that condition, and this is just gonna be up to the discretion of the board and the applicants and everyone involved. If you want to just, if this is a way to just satisfy all parties, then I mean, that's on the table, but I would still think that the board needs to have some sort of finding to back up the need for that condition. And to my ears, I haven't heard that yet, but
Okay. Yes. sir.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a suggestion. I've heard a willingness to cooperate among the neighbors. Would Attorney Zender and his client be willing to continue this hearing until your next meeting and meet with us at the site? We could have a qualified person come with us and together take a look at the existing walls and the locations of where those walls will be relocated, and see if we might agree to some adjustments or some conditions that this board could add to the issued site plan approval. I would love the opportunity to walk the site with Attorney Zender and his client and my client and talk about the concerns about these walls and how we make sure that they're going to be stable and stay stable. So I don't know what your meeting frequency is, if that's a month or if it's 2 weeks, but I know that.
It's in a month. It's in a month. But I was asking Mr. Doolittle if he'd be willing to work with us on number 2, not necessarily those walls, the rocks and the logs that you're referring to, but not number 2, just to give us a more definitive site plan.
Madam Chair, if I may,
But
first of all, I'd love to take a walk with Mr. Sunny anytime. I really enjoy his company, but handing this back to the appellant to get some agreement from them as to how this goes forward is something that we're not willing to do. Typically, when a board, including your board as a zoning board, is asking for a revision of a plan to incorporate something that's very defined, and in this case, a plan showing the required 6-foot natural buffer, the location of all retaining walls, and the existing grade and elevations for the southern half of the house, we can do that. Typically, what a board will say is they'll say, okay, we're going to issue your approval subject to this condition, and I think the condition could read, for example, subject to provision of this plan prior to the issuance of a building permit. But we're not willing to push this out another month, which pushes everything out a month for his work, and
right.
as well as that hands the appellant some level of control over the project. And what I inferred in those comments was, why don't we get together and see if these retaining walls can't be changed in some way, or this project can be changed? We're not going to go there. We're just not. So I would ask the board, if it does see fit to impose that condition, to impose that condition. And I'd like some clarification on that condition, because as I read that condition, I'm a little unclear. It says the location of all retaining walls and the existing grade and elevations for the southern half. I read that as existing grade and elevations. I don't read that as proposed grade, proposed elevations. So I'd like the condition, if it's imposed, to be clear that we're going to send Mr. Brady out. He's going to shoot the topography. He's going to provide a plan showing a 6-foot setback for vegetation, and he's going to show the locations and grades of all the retaining walls on the site, on the southern half of the site.
Including the existing ones.
Well, no, it is the existing ones. This is not the proposed ones. This condition says, go out there and show us what's there.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
that's fine. But I think that could certainly just be a condition that that's something that staff can review to see if we're compliant on. And if staff reviews it and we're compliant, then the building permit condition. So, but we would like a vote of the board tonight so that Gary can,
Okay.
move ahead. Thank you.
So as a proposed, I think everybody's in agreement that number 2 is acceptable to both parties. I'm concerned about the notion that we have to have a finding other than the idea that it's clear that there was erosion on the site before the walls were built. The walls are of a landscape style. I assume they're within, built the way they're supposed to be at 4 feet. Is that not a strong enough reason to ask?
If I could address
accept
that,
the condition?
not to jump on your line, Paul, but I think the board could certainly make a finding that the approval of the planning board was based upon an existing site plan that failed to show the required 6-foot natural buffer and the existing grades and elevations, and that this board feels that is required for a complete and adequate review of the project. I don't think the board has to find that there's some existing condition that merits that, but just that the plan itself may have been deficient in its presentation. And so.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it, that we're looking for more detail here.
So Paul, I'm sorry to jump ahead of you.
No, I
Thank you, Becky.
think that's reasonable.
Thank you.
Okay.
That makes sense.
All right, and Mr. Doolittle, you are in agreement that you will do that? Okay. And hopefully that would give our appellant here some peace of mind.
Well, also a definitive snapshot of the current conditions.
Yeah.
So that if some point in the future there is an issue, we can go back to this engineering drawing and say, here's where the wall was before you built the garage. And now there's an issue. But without that, she would have no recourse
Right.
on a civil court or anything else.
Right. Okay. Would we have to continue the case another month, or can we accomplish this without doing that? If we're going to invoke this revised site plan thing, if we're going to ask for that.
That's up to the board. You could make the, you could add that condition and make it subject to review and approval by staff to verify that all the elements have been added to the site plan or
Before the issuance of a.
or the issuance of a
Okay,
building permit
let's-
for the
can you word
garage.
it for us? Let's do it that way, so that they can get started their whole project. They've been waiting, I think, 3-4 months, something like that, to start working. And you've been waiting to see what you could get accomplished in terms of mitigating some of the things that you're concerned about.
Yes, I would like,
Madam Chair, may my client make some comments?
Yes, of course.
on advice of attorney, which I greatly appreciate. We had agreed to try to approach these contingencies because that is a really significant damage. I am an engineer, not a certified construction engineer, but I believe that the codes say total retained height, and it is an ongoing risk. We haven't had any rain. There's been a pattern of subsidence for years, so I disagree with the assertions even or findings of the board that there's not ongoing damage, and there will not be ongoing damage. The minute we have a rainstorm, this is going to come right down. So may I read a statement on the scale of the project, just for your consideration or for the record, so that you understand the trauma that this has caused my family and others who have come before the planning board. We are respectfully asking the board to simply consider the proposed building from the vantage points of abutters. No matter what the applicant and his team claim, no adjacent abutters will be looking at anything but an enormous building, completely out of character with the nearby area. We will look down on the roof of a building larger in volume and footprint than our own home. We will see the 26-foot high front of the building and the entire 42 feet of the monolithic wall housing his 3 boats and materials for his shellfishing operations. Even Mr. Klink admitted in prior hearings that the size of the building on the north side would in fact be very large. It would not be just large, the proposed building would be enormous. It will be 70% larger by footprint than another contractor's garage at 25 Deepwater of comparable height. It will be 120% larger than the generous garage with ADU at 720 Schoolhouse Road. The scale of this building cannot be masked by its setting in unnatural fill, flanked by ugly boulder walls over 12 feet in height. It's actually about 12.6. There is simply nothing in Eastham we know of that is comparable in scale and bulk to the building in this proposal and its associated boulder walls. The direct abutters will be harmed by this proposal for the rest of their lives or until we sell in despair. Section 10.3 site plan review states, residential development is designed in a manner that does not overwhelm Eastham's distinctive character and is built in compatibility with past development practices with regard to mass, scale, height, and bulk, which I think have been just grotesquely overblown here with the mass, scale, and bulk of this proposal. Boulder walls have been a jaw-dropping spectacle for passerbys for years. Now they will increase the height 50% to create the required landscape to support this giant building. This excavation and boulder wall creation does egregious harm to Eastham's character. What the planning board referred to as change feels to us like disfigurement. We urge the board to reduce the scale of the building to one in keeping with others in the area and consider a corresponding reduction in the height and setbacks of the final retaining walls.
Thank you. Do you want a copy of that
Yes, please.
for the record?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hold on,
Any more questions or comments from the board? From the audience? All right, I'm going to close the meeting to any more public comment. And Bob Sheldon, would you read the proposed
Madam Chair.
findings of fact?
Madam Chair, sorry, before you close, so do you want, I just want to read the condition,
Yes,
make sure we get, before you close down any further comment, just to make sure.
okay.
And I'm slightly rewording this for clarity, so again, discuss it, but
Okay.
so the proposed condition would read, prior to the issuance of a building permit for the proposed garage, a revised site plan showing the required perimeter vegetation in compliance with zoning bylaw section 7.2.6. Also showing the location of all retaining walls and the existing grade and elevations for the southern half of the site shall be submitted to the building commissioner.
Okay.
Make sure everyone's comfortable with that wording.
Do you mind reading that one more time?
Prior to the issuance of a building permit for the proposed garage, a revised site plan. Actually, I'm gonna change this for further clarity. Bear with me. Prior to the issuance of a building permit for the proposed garage, a revised site plan shall be submitted to the building commissioner showing the following items. One, the perimeter vegetation in compliance with zoning bylaw section 7.2.6. The location of all retaining walls and the existing grade and elevations for the southern half of the site.
Thank you. Okay, now, Bob, if you wouldn't mind reading the findings of fact.
Okay. In the case ZBA 2025-04, Eastham Zoning Board of Appeals finds that, one, the property is located at 420 Meeting House Road, and is located in a residential zone and water resource protection overlay district. Two, a public hearing held on July 16, 2025, the Town of Eastham Planning Board, acting in the matter of case PB 2025-06, voted to grant site plan review approval residential under the Town of Eastham zoning bylaw section 10 to construct a detached accessory structure, a garage. Three, the applicant seeks an appeal of the planning board decision for site plan approval residential for the case of PB 25-06 pursuant to zoning bylaw section 10.3.4. Any person aggrieved by the denial approval with conditions or approval by the planning board may appeal the action of the zoning board of appeals within 10 days of filing the decision with town clerk. The zoning board of appeals shall hear and decide appeals from decisions of the planning board under section 10.3 in accordance with Massachusetts General Law .c.40a, section 8. 4, the proposed site coverage will be 3,304 square feet with a coverage ratio of 10.2%. The total impervious surface area of 10.2% complies with the limits on impervious substances for District J groundwater protection overlay district, limited to 15%. The proposed project does not negatively impact existing native vegetation and soil or grade changes. The property underwent significant regrading prior to home construction and contains retaining walls in the area of the proposed garage. The elevations provided show the garage to be built into the existing hill, integrated with the retaining walls. No grade change is proposed. One oak tree is within the proposed area to be built and will need to be removed. The tree is approximately 20 inches in diameter and does not qualify as a legacy tree as defined by the Eastham zoning bylaws, section 21 definitions. Other vegetation to be removed are cultivars, whatever they are, and could be transferred to another location on the site. A well-established existing screening is predominantly Leland cypress. New infill plantings proposed are of native varieties to be planted on the backside and corners of the property to increase screening of the proposed structure. 7, the proposed project relates harmoniously to the terrain and to the use, scale, and proportions of existing and proposed buildings in the neighborhood. The siting of the garage at the back of the lot and integrated into the hill minimizes the apparent scale of the building and maintains balanced proportions with other buildings in the neighborhood. As the garage floor is proposed significantly below the average grade of the area, the visual impact on direct abutting properties is minimal. Number 8, the prevailing characteristics of the neighborhood are preserved by the plan as presented. As proposed, the building character is consistent with the neighborhood and the town, as it is a typical height for buildings in a residential area and utilize a traditional residential siding trim, windows, and gabled roof line. Exterior lighting is proposed as down-shielded wall sconce lighting. Interior lighting will be shielded from neighboring views with window tinting on the garage doors. Massing is balanced by separating the garage from the dwelling rather than connecting the two into a single large structure. Number 9, the proposed project avoids negative impacts on steep slopes, floodplains, hilltops, dunes, scenic views, and wetlands. The proposed building site is outside of floodplains and not in the area of dunes, scenic views, or wetlands. The building is intended to integrate into the existing slope to reduce the apparent scale of the building. Number 10, the proposed project does have existing unique or significant environmental resources. The property is located within District J groundwater protection overlay. Number 11, the proposed site plan maximizes the convenience and safety of vehicular and pedestrian movement within the site and in relationship to adjacent ways. The proposed project does not include any changes to existing curb cut, driveways, or parking areas. Traffic safety and pedestrian movement are not affected. The site contains ample space for vehicle movement and parking. The existing driveway will extend to the proposed garage. The existing hard packed area of sand will remain, allowing the property owners to turn vehicles and trailers within the property, eliminating the need to back into or out of the driveway.
May I have a motion to approve the findings of fact?
Did we want to add a finding of fact that the plan presented was insufficient?
Yes,
Yeah, the board finds that they,
number 12.
well, you had a proposed language a few moments ago.
That's for the condition. I think what you have finding
So,
site plan approved by the planning board was
insufficient.
regard to the detail of the existing conditions.
Okay.
We want to read that into the record, number 12.
Yes.
I'm ready to do.
Okay, number 12, under findings of fact. The board finds that the site plan approved by the planning board was insufficient regarding current conditions. Now, may I have a motion to approve the findings of fact?
So moved.
Justin, okay. And a second?
Second.
Okay, Alex. Seated on this case are Mr. Martin, Mr. Sheldon, who's getting a drink of water, Mr. Kennington, Mr. Dolly, and myself, Joy. Okay. May I have a vote here? Moved by Justin, seconded by Alex. All in favor?
This is a findings of fact.
Finding
Findings of fact.
This is the findings of fact.
Yes.
All in, yes.
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 Aye.
Yes, okay. Vote is 5-0, is that unanimous? Okay. Justin,
Madam Chair,
yes,
before you do the conditions. So what I'm hearing is that the board's getting ready to approve this, but I don't think you need to go through the conditions because you're basically going to be voting to uphold the planning board's decision,
okay,
and all of the conditions
repeated.
are, so yeah, so you really just need to vote to uphold the planning board's decision, subject to all the conditions of that approval and with the additional new condition.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul. I owe you one.
All right, may I have a
It was
motion?
fine. It was important to read the findings because those may
Yes,
have
yes.
changed based on
Yeah,
today's
something,
discussion.
yes, okay. May I have a motion to approve the conditions as printed in the planning board's decision and with the addition of the that the site plan approved by the planning board was insufficient regarding current conditions, and that we are requiring a revised site plan showing the required 6-foot natural buffer, the location of all retaining walls, and the existing grade and elevations for the southern half of the site, which Mr. Doolittle has provided. Now, may I have a motion to approve conditions?
I move that we approve the conditions. Yes.
Okay. A second, please.
Second.
Second, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, aye, and myself as well. Okay, now. I need a motion to approve the appellant's application with the
Madam
inclusion
Chair.
No,
of, no,
So essentially what the ZBA is doing tonight is you're upholding the planning board's
with the addition
site plan
of
approval,
one condition.
subject to the
Condition number
additional,
12.
the new condition.
Yep, okay. Could I have a motion for that, please?
I'll move that we uphold the planning board decision.
Okay.
With the additions to the site plan details.
Okay, all right. In a second,
Second.
Justin. Okay,
Sorry to be,
no, that's helpful. Thank you. One more?
just so it's clear, just you're upholding the
Right.
planning board's decision under case, whatever it is, PB,
PB 506.
subject to
Shall I move then
conditions.
that we uphold the planning board's prior site approval in case PB 2025-06, subject to the new condition that we just read out regarding an updated site plan?
Yes.
Yes,
Then I have so moved.
I'll second that. Thank you.
all right. So Justin is now approving.
Yep.
And
And I'm seconding.
Martin is seconding. All right, I'm gonna take a voice vote here. Justin,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Alex,
aye.
and myself, aye. Okay. 5-0, unanimous. We don't have any abutters here in favor, do we? One. In favor, okay. Any abutters opposed?
I'm in a butter and I am for this. It's Lisa Radke across the street, 415.
Okay, all right. And you, sir, your name?
Scott Brookshire,
Okay,
710 Schoolhouse.
okay. Thank you both. Anyone opposed? Right? Letters in favor received? No? This
Did
time
not
around?
receive any letters on the ZBA.
Okay, okay. And opposed?
No, neither way.
Okay. All right. So this case is approved to uphold the planning board's decision, subject to the new condition number 12.
Okay.
All right.
Minutes. That
Yes, we have minutes. Yes, I'm getting to those.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
But I really expected. I said, taxpayer. You know, just August, telling my honesty. As a taxpayer here in Eastham since 1972. I expected some protection from the town of Blues. Instead, everything that there now was done without a permit. He just took his machines and went out there and mowed down everything, built those roads. He chopped the tree roots right back to a nub and left them hanging out for the winter. All without permits. I really expected this town to be more protective of your taxpayers. Just not to let somebody come in and rip and tear the land. And then call it fine. I'm just so chagrined, so disappointed that all my life, just about from the time I was 30 years old. And I'm now 87, we love the game. We've come here every single year. It was a long, hard battle to get that land, or the original subdivider, divided. There were paths back there that were supposed to be upheld. I don't know what happened to them. Who took them? Where are they now? I feel like because my back was turned, that you let them change the whole backyard. Let them clear cut. Let them do anything you want. And in fact, when you went to complain to the building department, somebody came flying out of that office each time I went in, saying he can do anything he wants. And he certainly has, hasn't he? I really expected some protection from this damn town. I've been paying taxes since 1972. And the minute my back is turned, someone's in there shoveling out my backyard. Dumping rocks back there. Taking down everything that's natural. When you look at that site plan, all you see is hardscape. There'll be big puddles the next rainstorm. I don't know what you're looking at, but I'm looking at the destruction of what I saved for, what I planned, what I built for all these years. And I've been a good citizen, done everything that you wanted me to do. But I'm now a victim of illegal. He had no permit. Why don't you ever protect me? Why did you just say, go ahead, ruin this land, cut it down, put gravel on the front that I can't walk on? I'm handicapped. He's put gravel all across the front. So I have to hit, if I wanted to walk there, I'd have to go in the road. I can't walk on that. You don't have any consideration for anything that you're doing or anything that you let him do. When I think I had rights, I think I should have been told when he was there with his dozers. And I think I should have been let into the building department to protest this, but you never did. I'm so disappointed that all my savings, all my effort, all my work is for naught now, just because you do not uphold your laws, that you let somebody come in and rip and tear the natural landscape without any notification, illegally do it. And this is the way you're treating your taxpayers since 1972.
It's an 8-foot drop, it was a code violation.
I'm not being human by any of this. I feel
Be smiling if it's just despair, and so are one of the other butters couldn't even bother to mount a defense.
Certainly
You
wasn't-
can't just
certainly
always
wasn't a
just
smile.
not
It's me
protect.
trying to remain pleasant and cordial.
Excuse me?
I wasn't smiling. I was finding no joy in this at all. I'm just trying to be pleasant and cordial. If I have a neutral look on my face, that's what it is.
It's
It's
okay.
not showing any happiness here. And I resent.
And you
being
don't
accused of-
mind-
I resent being accused of finding this humorous. I do not. I spent a lot of time walking on the site. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
I
I'm
accept it.
sorry too, but
If
I
it,
do feel aggrieved by
if
this
it's,
town.
if it's any consolation whatsoever, we are constrained by the laws of the state and
And
the
the
by,
laws of the state.
and the by, and the by,
direct-
ma'am, and the bylaws under which the town of Eastham is governed. We are constrained by that. We're as much.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just, for your own protection, the hearing's been closed. It's really not appropriate
Okay,
to continue. The applicant has the right to appeal this decision.
yes, you do. You do. And it could be, if you wish, you could take it to civil
I'm
court.
sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I said, if you wish to, you could take it to civil court.
I will. I have been aggrieved. You've not upheld my rights at all,
I understand that.
and I will.
We have,
Madam Chair, if I could for 1 second, I just want to thank Paul for cutting that off because that was really inappropriate to, I believe Gary's already left the room and heard none of that. So thank you, Paul, for cutting that off.
We're not in a moment of public comment,
Yeah, so the case is over.
to be
It's-
clear.
it's-
okay. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes from July 3rd?
I'll make the vote.
Okay.
I lost my copy, though I don't think I had any issues with it.
And could I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, you can't do it. You weren't here.
You don't know. Maybe he watched it.
Oh, okay. Before I let you out the door, folks, I have a list of all of us now. And you said 2 days ago, so that would have been on the 29th of September that you finished your ethics.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so here we have names, addresses, emails, when your ethics expires, when your next term is up.
Thank you.
And Linda Sassy, of course, has these on file.
Thank you.
I do.
I'll bring it up.
Okay, thanks. And I have one here for Doug when he returns. Oops. There you go. Thank you.
Take your vote to adjourn, please. It's when you're ready.
Yes.
One
All
thing,
right.
sorry, really quick.
It's okay.
Sorry. Just so the ZBA knows, the zoning task force is going to be working on some proposed amendments to the
Mhm.
zoning bylaw for next May's town meeting. Martin Ridge is your representative on that task force, so we'll be coming back periodically to update the ZBA, but just so you know,
Good.
there will
Okay.
be some things in the works for the zoning bylaw.
Okay. I need one more motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
okay. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Next, no, maybe it's-
Me too. Okay, and we have a,
Yeah, you can.
One of these days, I'm gonna vote no on that one just to see the looks on other faces.
Okay, so you
We
you
have
are
a case for
adjourned.
next month, don't we?